Well, I think that's a very big question, and there's a multi-layered answer. I think you're asking, emotionally, politically, violently. There are so many different things at stake. In countries like Brazil, where you can run into so many problems dealing with this, but I guess the quickest answer is this idea of a network, and how if the voice and the cry is louder and louder and is multifold and involves more and more people, and connections are built globally as well as locally, I think it becomes harder to ignore. It becomes harder to persecute. So I think that's one thing I learned following this network for so long, just how important it is to connect, and in an integrated world, in a connected world, that's easier now. So I don't know if you want to speak at all to how Women on Web deals with that.
Oh, also I want to ask if there is people that need translation. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui ne parle que français? No, we're good. We don't need translation. Okay, excellent.
Brazil is our hardest challenge right now with the Women on Web service because they're blocking all the packages and you can't get misoprostol, and Brazilian women are mostly out of luck right now unless they can get to a different country. Having worked in the US in the late 90s when people were getting shot and blown up as an abortion rights activist, it can be scary, and it can be scary when you see sort of groups of people that are all yelling at you, but you know what, you're never alone in it, and so that helps. I think even if you just have one other person by your side, you know that what you're doing is right, and you know that you have the wave of history behind you. Progress is behind you, and so I think we will get there eventually. Well, actually, the medications, the doctors are not in Canada, so that's one thing. But actually in Canada, there are telemedicine medical abortions that happen where abortion is given via Skype consult with the doctor in one location and the woman in the other. Specifically, I'm thinking of rural BC. This has been happening for a little while now, and provincial regulations vary. But in our situation, the doctors aren't in Canada, the packages aren't coming from Canada. They're everywhere, but they're in countries where they're not going to be facing these kinds of troubles.
Sure. 8 years ago, I was in a graduate school program for an international studies master's degree, and I was writing a lot about the activist occupation of offshore space. And when a friend of mine told me about Women on Waves, it was one of the first really resounding examples I had heard of that space being occupied for a real direct action social justice agenda. And so there was sort of an academic initial draw to the subject material, which of course became much more emotional over the subsequent 8 years of filming them. The film, you might notice, starts 13 years ago. I came in at that sort of halfway mark 8 years ago, and the earlier footage was actually donated to the film by previous filmmakers and previous non-filmmakers who had been recording the earlier campaigns. So it really was a group effort to tell the entire story. In terms of my how filming was, it was a crew of one, just out of necessity for the most part. There was a lot of people involved with the film from day one, but we didn't have any money for a long time, so it was, and that actually came in very handy in some of the more intimate moments. We couldn't have had a big film crew involved. And the campaigns were sporadic. It wasn't like full-time for 8 whole years. So whenever there was a campaign, I would get myself there or get myself to Amsterdam to do pickup interviews that sort of tied the film together. Does that, yeah? So by the time I connected with Rebecca, she was well accustomed to the media. So even though the first interview I ever gave on film was with Rebecca, the first time I met her, and it was after, we were just talking about this prior to the screening, but I had bought the ticket to Amsterdam and rented a camera before I even called her because I was scared she would say no. So my friend who was with me was like, Diana, call her. Like, we're going to Amsterdam in 2 weeks or whatever it was. So, and she, like I said, she's very media savvy at that point. She was like, just show up, come to my office, we'll do an interview. And I think she fitted in between, a flight the night before and a flight the next morning. And so it really wasn't about getting her to to allow me to film her, it was about a long process in gaining her trust, and that I wasn't out to make an expose about her personal life, an expose about the women they were helping, but that it really was something that I believed in. And the film would be constructed around that. One of the first things, we're developing a lot of outreach right now, and I have some really great partners that are helping me to figure that out in strategic ways, one of which, of course, is Women on Web and Women on Waves, two of which. But one thing I wanted to tell you all is that we've launched a community screenings campaign, of which tonight is the first actual screening. Yeah, very exciting. Aquí Cinema Politica. And basically what it means is any small or large organization that wants to host a screening of the film can do so. And our colleagues at a company called Film Sprout make it very easy. You pay a nominal fee on a sliding scale to get the DVD engagement materials that we're developing, and some other swag. And you basically can host a screening with whatever community or campus group or organization or NGO or company that's interested. You can use it as a fundraiser for your own efforts. And it's really about getting it to local communities such that we're not only imposing an overarching call to action. We're really allowing the call to action to be on the local level, because so often that's what makes such a difference, getting local people involved in the movement and catering the call to action to a local agenda. So if you're interested, it's very easy to get more information about it on our website, which is vesselthefilm.com.
The need for volunteer time in Women on Web is not as much as you might think, actually. Our help desk staff are hired and paid, and so far we're okay. We always take donations, of course. Spreading the word is helpful, liking us on Facebook, talking about us, getting information out there. And one of the things that really inspires me is watching, for instance, what the Ecuadorian activists did, that sort of very direct action type of work. It's hard to sort of translate that into what you do in a country where abortion is reasonably accessible, and by that I mean Quebec, not Canada. But you could always contact us and we can see if we can figure something out. Cytotec is available in a lot of South American countries, Brazil being an exception, unfortunately. But abortion in general has been legalized in Uruguay for a couple of years, and in many other countries, Cytotec or Arthrotec or Misoprostol is available, and it's freely available in pharmacies without a prescription in many cases.
Oh, thank you. And to add to that, just that, you probably saw at the end of the film, the hotline that started in Ecuador has reproduced in several countries across Latin America. Chile, Venezuela, Argentina, Peru, and I think it continues to sort of, the idea is going viral. So
we are one of the few developed countries that does not yet have mifepristone approved in our country for a number of complicated reasons. So hopefully soon that's going to change, and by soon I mean 2015. But if not, we do have misoprostol available here. It is available by prescription. Interesting, when I was doing my training, I was noticing that every sort of CLSC and hospital just sort of has it sitting around the sample cabinets. It's given for a number of indications that are not obstetrical, and it's relatively easy to come by, but it is a prescription medication. What people mostly use here for medical abortion is actually a different medication called methotrexate, which is given by injection or orally, and then is followed up with misoprostol several days later. And it's a longer process. It's not as effective as medical abortion with mifepristone, but it is more effective than the misoprostol alone. It's not a very popular option for the most part in Canada. There's a number of reasons for that I could go on about. Not even remotely. No. The money for medicines goes from the organization to the company that makes the medicines, absolutely not the other way around.
And neither did the film.
We're self-sustainable through donations from individual women that receive the service.
So what is your website? Where can people go and donate?
People can donate to at womenonweb.org. We are sustained through individual donations. We don't take government money, we don't take grant money, we don't take pharmaceutical money or company money. And that was the goal from the start, was to make this an international solidarity movement. So womenonweb.org, if you want to help donate, that would be fantastic. And you could certainly know that you're about one third of the packages that we send out are to women who are unable to donate to our service at all. So any donation that you guys can make will help offset our costs of sending medications to women in the most desperate of situations. No one's turned away.